us today, and thank you both for being here, and look forward to hearing more about the process and inspiration behind the work.
Thank you, Melanie. Thank you, everyone, for being here. It's truly a massive honor to be able to spend some time with Lucy. And we had the opportunity to catch up over the phone during the development of the book. And the book is a gorgeous publication. If you haven't seen it, this is a great opportunity. So we'll keep this relatively condensed as a conversation so that we can have a beautiful book signing and you can spend more time with the work. But I just wanted to start off by asking you a few questions to kind of prime us as we get deeper and deeper into some of these things, and call out the obvious, that the exhibition is titled Radiant City, and there is a true infatuation in this body of work for a period of modernism that reimagines some of the ways that our urban centers have been constructed, the materiality, and especially the polychromy, the colors. And I wanted to give you an opportunity to kind of talk about what it is about that moment in time and the architecture and imagery around that motivates you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been a journey, really, through the different kind of architectural periods that I'm interested in. And this work, the Radiant City series, this work and the other works that related to it, they came about by me just being interested in Le Corbusier's building first, but then the idea behind it, which was his original conception, was a city. And this was kind of like an imaginary city because it was never realized. And this just seemed really kind of exciting because what it did was it broadened the scope and brought in all the different areas that I'm interested in, the buildings, the municipal pools, the other things, to bring a kind of cohesive sense of an overriding sense of spaces. And and also just the word Radiant City, because the work's very colourful and I use lots of colour and reflective surfaces, that the word radiant just felt kind of very joyful, which is how I see my work, as kind of indulging in joy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's something about that moment in architectural modernism that feels like individuality is getting kind of suppressed in a way. And the aspect of color that is used on the facades of the Unité in the Radiant City, this one is the Unité in Berlin that you focused on, but there was a few others built, brings back a little bit of that individuality. And as you zoom into each of these apartments, you get these nuanced kind of micro narratives that you're playing out. So I wanted to hear about how you negotiate this as a bit of a storytelling device, right? We're looking at a construction of architecture, but in it are these potentially inhabitable spaces.
Yeah, so talking about materiality, so this is why I'm kind of interested in early modernism and the Bauhaus, because there was a sense of the handmade and in the early modernism, and sense of the crossover between architecture and art, and the kind of workshop, and so that's kind of like the world that I inhabit. The making, the warmth of the handmade, and the different materials, and so that's sort of where I reside, and this work I think kind of brings that to the fore, with the different with the threading and all the different kind of warm materials, and so you don't have that kind of stark, austere modernism that came about later, where everything was very mechanized. It's very much about like the handmade and the kind of slightly woolly line. Yeah, and there's a kind of exploration in making these works of the different like things I'm interested in. So you'll see, if you look carefully, that I'm quite obsessed about au revoir alto. That's kind of obvious because there are quite a few au revoir alto lights. And he's really interesting because he uses natural materials and everything is quite organic, and that is that is just something that I'm interested in too. Yeah. So I align myself with certain things within the work, and if you go in and you look very closely, you can see those things. Yeah. And in the same way that this work particularly, I got obsessed about curtains. Wouldn't it be interesting if I could choose a curtain designed by like women, like maybe sort of forgotten women who like made textiles during the kind of modernist period. And so I explored that because that seemed like a kind of fun thing to do.
So your practice is almost this revisiting of these modernist narratives, but you're diving into things that are of specific interest. And
absolutely.
Like with Alto's premise that architecture could really benefit us as individuals, the environment could have these kind of beneficial health effects potentially. You see that in other projects that you focused on, like Neutra's Kaufman residence in the desert, and that concept of this color bringing in a little bit of that individuality. But the handmade is really interesting because when you look at this work, what's so obvious is that they are incredibly intricate, incredibly laborious, and kind of layered constructions. So your practice is essentially akin to one of that of an architect. You're thinking through the process of construction, the materiality of construction, spatiality of construction, but creating these collage reliefs with thread. And I just think that everybody here is probably quite interested in hearing more about this process of making and what that's like in your studio.
Yeah, laborious is a good word. Yeah, everything takes ages. Yeah. Right from the beginning, so the drawing phase of the work. So I work on a big drawing board that collapses because I don't have that much room in my studio. I work on a big drawing board with a parallel motion and a pencil, and everything is hand drawn by me first. And in that process, then I can start thinking about what the work might be made of, what it's going to depict, and things like that. So it's a sort of meditative process, which can take several weeks for a drawing to be made. And then once that's finished, so it gets to a point where it becomes like a template, because everything has to be built on top of each other. So it needs to be like quite fixed. Then various parts, some elements of the drawing is digitized and things are cut. Because I can't cut the wood and things like that. So that's cut and perspex, and then that's brought back. And then the image is kind of built from the bottom up. Yeah, and so I have to decide. So this seems very normal to me. So I work back to front. Yeah, so I have to decide what's going in, on the back first. So something like the collector's house over there, the everything that was inside the room is all decided, cut, and sort of stuck down first, and then it's encased in perspex, screwed down, and then the top of the perspex, and then the building is built around that kind of aperture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
then
So there's a lot
and the
of
pool.
Yeah. So there's a lot of decisions that have to be made like early, and then it sort of gets built in literally in layers. Yeah.
And that's wood, perspex, plexiglass,
Yeah,
paper,
paper.
which is hand painted,
Yes, it is.
colors which are hand mixed,
Yes.
thread hand dyed.
No, not that far.
Yet? Okay.
yeah. But hand sewn.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sewing. A lot of sewing. Yeah, but the paper is a whole process in itself, because every color that you see is the paper is rolled up on boards, stretched, rolled up. The paint is mixed. A sheet of paper can take a day to make. Wow. And I have like these cabinets with like hundreds of sheets of paper in that have been made over the years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you also have notebooks of formulas of these colors in case you want to revisit them.
Yeah. So in the book, there are a couple of pages of those notebooks where you can see the colors that and so after a piece is made, I make a little swatch of the colours that appear in that work, so that I can refer back to it. So when I make another work and I go, oh, I really like the colours in that Palm Springs work, and I can revisit those colours and go back to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Incredible. The way that you construct compositions, to me, is honoring a kind of golden era of architectural photography. And we talked in our chat before the book was published about that era of representation being a big motivator for you, and the way that that modernism was communicated out through publications, through the lens of Julius Schulman and Esser Stoller, and I wonder, because these compositions have this tremendous photographic quality, how that has inspired you and how you use that as a kind of research tool as well.
Yeah, I guess there's two things going on. One is that so that flatness, so that period, the architectural photography was very flat. And also, I come out of 90s art school and Dusseldorf School of Photography, and that very flat, Andreas Gursky flatness. So it's kind of like two things kind of coming together. My interest in that very straight-on flat view of buildings and things like that. So it's just a personal kind of preference, I suppose. But also what's great about it is the geometry that you get from that flatness. And that's what I'm looking for. When I look at an image, I'm looking at the geometry and in there a kind of abstraction. So those things are going on. And so that very flat-on, frontal, very structural grid becomes a kind of pattern. Yeah.
So you're using the architecture to then create a frame.
Yeah.
And I think what we also see is that as you dive deeper into some of these frames, you start to come into textures and patterns. Yeah. And in this exhibition, you've started to bring some of those patterns to life in their own. And we were talking about how laborious this process is. So I think it's really fascinating to see a difference maybe on that wall where you see the Radiant City facade study, and then you start to get into this abstraction, which, while all of this is purely your own, the abstraction starts to take on a new kind of set of, a kind of freedom. Yeah. And how has that been liberating or challenging?
Oh, completely. I mean, so I decided that that it would be really interesting to explore abstraction. I was cropping buildings like this is cropped, and the smaller Radiant Cities are cropped. But even with that cropping, there wasn't really a sense of true abstraction. So I thought, wouldn't it be really kind of fascinating to like really become abstract? And there was a whole process of like, what would that look like? What would it be made of? And we spoke earlier how I lighted on the work of Gio Ponti and there was some Frank Lloyd Wright wallpaper that was really interesting, and it had the kind of diamond shape, and I thought, well, that could be really kind of fascinating to kind of explore that. And they started off as gouaches, which are shown around the corner, like literally coloured diamonds on paper. And then my mind works in that way of like, oh, well, how can I make that three-dimensional? So that they stick out. Like, what would they be made of? Oh, the paper, and then, you know, the lines. I was drawing lines on them as well. Well, they could be threads. So this whole process just slowly unfolded. And they were designed as a counterpoint to the representational works. Right from the beginning, I thought it'd be really interesting to show them next to them and become like an expansion of the works, and almost like a pause next to the work or something. Yeah.
They're incredibly intricate works on their own as gouaches, and all of your work is this negotiation between 2 and 3 dimensions. So to see something that is explicitly flat is really wonderful, next to, you know, how that emerges into the more dimensional work. And it makes me curious about how far you could push that from that 2 dimensions to 3 dimensions. And as much of this is a representation of architecture, I want to know, you know, how large in your imagination your work could be.
Oh, well. Yeah, I mean, I have begun to maybe explore the idea of like complete 3-dimensionality in the studio. I have mobiles that I've made. The idea that they sort of, you know, sit in space, and this is very interesting. And obviously, in the past, I've done shows that had a kind of viewing structure in which the work is put. So that's kind of quite interesting. But there's something quite exciting about the hovering between 2 and 3 dimensions that I'm particularly interested in.
Yeah.
And that's in a way that short kind of space is kind of quite fun. That, you know, it's to play with shadow, real and imaginary, to layer things up and make you think sometimes it's completely flat, and then sometimes, oh look, it could be almost completely 3D. And that tension between the image and what it's made of, that's what gets me up in the morning.
That's amazing. That's very, very well put. There was something about the mosaic that we touched on a little earlier, being inspired by you know, something that you've seen, but that you've taken it to your own, to another level. So that and these other geometries really kind of lead me to believe that seeing them at a one-to-one scale would be really compelling.
I mean, there is a slight limitation with working on with things when they're handmade, you know, with scale. I think there's a sort of I don't know. I think I really enjoy the relationship that I have between me and my work, that I'm able to like do it myself and work on it myself. There's a kind of humanness and a warmth, hopefully, that comes up, you know, that comes to the fore with you know, knowing that, you know, they were just all hand sewn, and that, you know, I mean, that's why the things are the size they are, because so I can work on them myself, like the kind of hand span, so I can pick things up in the studio, and I don't need anyone else to help me.
This is quite large.
Yeah, but it's in 3 parts.
Okay. Yeah, that's the trick.
Yeah, it's a trick. Yeah.
I'm sure a handful of 1,000 parts, actually.
It is, yeah. That's quite a lot of parts.
So in this canon of modernism, are there architects other than Alto, who you mentioned, or buildings that you would love to explore that are kind of on your list of things to
Ooh, that's a good question.
Dive into?
Yeah, I suppose there's there are so many great German pools that I haven't explored. Yeah, Germany has the most amazing municipal architecture. Yeah, and I think it's kind of endless. Yeah. So a continuation of that, really.
Continuing with the pools project.
Yeah. There's something kind of exciting about making work with reflection in it that I particularly am drawn to. I think in the book I talk about like collage being quite a solid thing, and when you're working with perspex, plexiglass, solidity disappears. It's kind of wonderful. Yeah, it has that kind of almost kind of liquid feeling. Yeah, even though it's a very hard, material, just the light, the transmission of light. Yeah, so I get quite excited about that, really.
So the reflection of the water is one motivator, but the room, the idea of a municipal pool is interesting to you. And is there something about it being this kind of democratizing space, or almost a kind of utopian aspect of that that's a motivator?
Yeah, definitely. Corbusier's idea that, everyone should be able to live in these spaces, that's kind of a lovely idea that we're now, we're not so wedded to, really. But that idea that our lives, that an architect is interested in the whole of our lives, not just, it's not just financial, it's about a holistic, sense of community.
Yeah.
I mean, it was idealistic, but it was kind of wonderful as well.
Yeah. And I think that scale from kind of community all the way down to the tangible is important, and it's in your work. I mean, I don't know if there's any particular one in here, but there are works of yours that I've seen where you've focused on a door handle, and that an architect's mandate can go from that scale all the way to the Broadacre city scale and the urban scale, or the radiant city scale, of course.
Yeah. No, door handles are wonderful things.
Why are all of the bookshelves in a little bit of disarray?
Because that's more fun. Yeah. Who wants a regimented bookshelf?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's about pattern, really, and about it's more joyful, right? Yeah, nice book.
More human. In a way.
Yeah, because the human is there in the work, I think, in terms of like making, like the sewing and the thread, but also it's there in the chairs, I think, and the objects, and the lights and things like that. But the human is there in a subtle way. Yeah,
I really loved thinking about that, because in each of these, it's a scene where maybe somebody has just left the room.
Yeah.
Where the reading light is on, the chair is positioned just so, a book has been pulled out of the bookshelf.
Yeah.
So there is this real kind of lived-in aspect of some of these things, and you see it in kind of each of the personalities of each of these different units. The vases, the lights, the curtains. And I think the curtain, the thing that you mentioned about the curtains is this opportunity to bring to life, these unsung histories. Or I think that is relevant to the more geometric patterns. You are making something that fits into this canon that you're interested in.
Possibly, yes. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. There is a kind of like historical kind of compulsion, I suppose, with the work, like to I don't know, to truly, reflect on that past period. I mean, I must admit, I have got one foot in the past. I can't deny it, really.
Well,
I've spent so much time reading about the Bauhaus, and I know that it wasn't perfect or whatever, but I'd have loved to have been there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really would.
I feel like you're bringing us there with you,
Yeah.
with this work.
Yeah, yeah. There's a real kind of like, there's this real desire to have been, to have wanted to be a part of that moment. And my studio has that kind of feel to it. It has a kind of workshop kind of feel. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's something about these scenes that has this kind of nostalgia for that moment in time.
Yeah, yeah, I don't deny. That is a bit, nostalgic. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Lucy, for bringing us into this moment in time with this beautiful work. And I think maybe we can open it up for a couple questions as well while we're here, and then hop into a bit of a book signing.
Great, thanks.
Yeah.
I have to ask if Rear Window might be a favorite movie of yours.
A what, sorry?
The movie Rear Window.
Oh, right. yeah.
And along with that, do you develop narratives at all about the individual units? You kind of referenced, again, some individuality in your perspective, and I was just wondering if you actually developed a narrative at all about
I kind of do. I mean, that's what's happening. I mean, I spend so long making them that a narrative is there. And so each individual unit I would have spent, half a day on the inside, just thinking about, what was going to be in it, and which vase shape, and what the color of the curtains were going to be. And you develop a kind of like, they become like little friends. yeah, and you like go, oh, that's that one with the kind of crazy, shaped kind of vase in it, yeah. They take on like human kind of, feeling, yeah.
Do you go to these places like the Neutral House? Do you go in person or you look?
No, I'm very poorly travelled. Yeah. So I've been asked this question before. And I've thought about it. I think I'm much more interested in my own. I'm interested in how it feels like in my own mind rather than the actual place. So it's a sort of like internal journey. And and rather than like getting bogged down in the reality of things, because that's where I really I'm not an architect, because it doesn't have to stand up. It doesn't have to, function. It's no functionality. So I can enjoy, the making a building that really probably you might be quite difficult to walk around in. It doesn't really matter. And to enjoy thinking about like how it might be, but in my imagination. So there's a lot of that going on.
And the way that I think the reality of some of these built projects have held up over the past 70 years, might be dissatisfying compared to the images that you've studied and the kind of the imagery in your mind.
Yeah. So the work, the Collector's House, it was an original kind of 60s, I think, build, Palm Springs, and it got rebuilt. So we're going back in time. Yeah. There's I'm looking at historical images rather than ones that have been gutted and redone. Yeah.
And often in some of these photographs, I'm thinking of Schulman, there's a lot of invention that's actually happening, mediation between the photographer and the viewer. What you're seeing in the image has been somewhat manipulated and perfected so that you're telling a story.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I've read a few articles about how Julius Schulman moved things around to cover up bits of the building that weren't great. A carefully placed chair.
Yeah, or holding a branch in front of the lens to get just the right composition.
You're like, oh look, there's a tree.
There's no tree there.
So that you can't see the junction of the thing. Yeah, no, it's really fascinating. Yeah.
Have you done other kind of imagined buildings, or like you were saying, it doesn't have to stand up? Because when you mentioned that, I thought of Piranesi and the kind of horrifying prisons. But it'd be awesome to see
most of the things I do have a real thing at the beginning. I think that's just the way my mind works. So I see something. I collect a lot of images in, well, originally it was like, because I'm getting on a bit now, but originally it was all in books and magazines, and now obviously there's a lot of stuff online. So I'm a collector of things, of images that I keep, and some things, you know, I find and I might make work quite quickly, and some things actually a bit like Le Corbusier. So I've had images of this for like years, and it really wasn't until I started threading that this became kind of like more exciting, that there was a kind of, it almost needed something else going on.
Yeah.
And so the threading kind of came to the fore,
More
really.
texture.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think the original image is like a building block. And I kind of, the way my mind works, I still have it. The only thing I'd say that is completely not real life is these bookcases. So that is wholly imagined. They were not real.
And it's
I did a whole
beautiful.
series of bookcases that were from Maison Louis Carré, Alto designed library outside Paris. But I guess bookcases they can be anything, really. And so I detach myself from reality with those.
And these are beautiful because you're taking the kind of abstract patterns and integrating them and creating something, you know, wholly new, as you're saying. So there's this two-way dialogue between the patterns that are being influenced by these works and then standing on their own and then kind of integrating back into new works, which is really wonderful.
Yeah, I didn't really. Yeah, we were talking about this earlier, that I didn't really realise how much that would happen. I don't know why I didn't, but I didn't. I didn't realise how much it would just flood back into the work. When I started making these the abstract works and started threading, how like bam, they kind of came straight back into the work, and the threading became a really, really important part of the representational works as well. Yeah. It was really exciting. It was like a floodgate. It just kind of went like, oh, I'm threading lots of things now.
As you've done the gouache, and that's, you know, strictly 2 dimensions, do you have any ideas around doing a work that's only thread?
Yes.
Stay tuned. Sorry, I've focused on this side for questions. Anything from this side? Yes?
I have a 2-part question. In your process, do the original drawings kind of stay as you originally drew them, or do they kind of get, you know, cut up in the process? And 2, have you ever displayed the original drawings along your finish?
So I haven't displayed the original drawings. They've always felt to me like they're like the back end, the working part. You know, but they. What's quite fun is that in the book we've taken, because they're on trace. We've taken some of the drawings, and you can see them on the trace, so they look like the original drawings, which has been quite fun. It's quite a fun way of looking at it. Yeah. So no. Although I do redraw elements, so they stay as the template, but sometimes I'm like, oh, I need to go back and revisit those chairs. Like, that's no good. And so I go back in and go and have another go, because we were talking about things being fixed, weren't we, before we sat down, about things being fixed, but things change as I'm making it. Like I'll get so far. So like the Collector's House 2, it took me a while to know what the sculptures were going to be on the right-hand side. And they went through several kind of variations. I just couldn't make my mind up.
Yeah. And those are kind of, you know, inspired by architectural pottery, so in the same language of the era of the house.
Yeah. But it took a while to get there, because I wanted something sculptural, but didn't want to design my own sculpture. Yeah. And so, but also didn't want to just put another artist's work in there. And so there was this kind of, architectural pottery is quite interesting because they're, they're plant pots. And then they made into sculptures. And this seemed quite an interesting, I am interested in that kind of cross-pollination. So they seemed a kind of fun thing to represent, to depict,
I'd love to see that in 3 dimensions. The drawings in the book on vellum are gorgeous, and they're clearly so intentional. You see that in the rest of the work. So maybe one more question, and then we can have a chance to see the book.
Well, thank you. This has been wonderful. And I'm inspired by the threading process, both on 2 levels, because you're integrating all these concepts in the thread. But how do you actually thread your...
Oh, it's quite simple. So the holes are made into a material, and then like a child's lacing, we had them when we were kids. Like you would have a board with a lacing kit, and that was the idea. It was something kind of silly, really, or fun, or childlike. And that's how all the threading is done. So there's holes perforated in the material, and it's just sewn through. Yeah. So I could give you a panel to do. You could do it yourself. They're fun. I mean, they're not so fun when you've got all these to do.
Yeah. Well, if you sign us all up, maybe you could have another
I'll call
shot.
you all. We could do one each. Yeah.
Thank you, Lucy, for sharing your work with all of us.
Thank you very much.